as we begin our discussion of World War I, it's really important that we understand the major causes of World War I. So the essential question that we're going to be looking at tonight is, what were the major causes of World War I? And there's an acronym that I want you to remember, and that acronym is MANIA. M-A-N-I-A. So throughout this presentation, you're going to see what each of these letters of MANIA means and how they influence this huge war that's going to happen. So the M of MANIA is militarism. And just like the word sounds, militarism, military, okay? Militarism is this policy of building up a strong military to prepare for war, also known as an arms race. You hear that term arms race in current events all the time between countries who are trying to flex their muscles or, show off for each other. World War I is going to be the first war in which advanced weaponry and tactics were used. That's all a result of the Industrial Revolution. So you're going to see things like machine guns, the Gatling gun, and tanks used for the first time during World War I. They're very, very rudimentary compared to what we see in our war today, but still, huge weapons to be considering. So there was a race for creating more of those weapons of mass destruction among the nations. And I want you to keep in mind, guys, that this weapon of mass destruction is not the same kind of weapon of mass destruction that we have today. Okay, the atomic bombs didn't come into the picture until much later. This is still weapons that were targeted at killing or harming a lot of people, but not necessarily wiping out entire cities. There was a desire to create a large amount of weapons as well as to build up your army and your navy. And once again, that was just to flex muscles, just be like, I'm better than you are, deal with it type scenario. So the United States is going to really be building up an army, and Germany especially is going to really start to flex its muscles in Europe. So the first A of MANIA is alliances. Alliances are agreements between nations to provide aid and to protect each other, just similar to alliances that you form with your friends today. You're going to do things for each other. You're going to protect each other. I got your back, you got my back kind of scenario going on. So we're going to see these alliances forming throughout Europe. And they are going to be there to protect each other. The problem with this, just like you see with your groups of friends, is that one teeny tiny event can drag all of these huge nations into this war, even if those other nations aren't even affected. Okay, we see this in middle school drama all the time, right? One little event is going to cause this, ripple effect of friends and, different groups. So the alliances that we're going to be looking at are the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. And the Triple Alliance is Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, while the Triple Entente is France, Russia, and Great Britain. The United States is going to eventually join the Triple Entente, but it's going to be way, way, way towards the end of the war. Nationalism is the N of MANIA. And we've talked about nationalism several different times throughout our class discussions. So nationalism is extreme pride in one's country. And we're going to see this nationalism taking apart in different parts of Europe. And we know that the United States has this idea of nationalism. We talked about that with the Civil War, the idea of nationalism versus sectionalism, and how all of that really led into the Civil War. But it's really going to start off with the French Revolution. Okay, then we're going to see it really, really in the early 1900s and the late 1800s taking a really strong hold in the Balkan area. Okay, Albanians, Greek, Romanians, all struggling for their independence. They all want to have these individual nations. Bosnia was another area of a lot of hostility. Austria-Hungary annexed Bosnia and some of its territories. And then Serbia was a newly independent nation, so they're forming their own ideas of nationalism. And they felt like Bosnia should be a part of their territories. This is going to be the root of a lot of the problems that's going on during this time period, this Bosnia-Serbia issue. And it's very complex. I mean, we're just kind of, you know, perusing over it because, you know, that we don't spend a whole lot of time in World War I, but this was the root of a lot of the issues. So the I of mania is imperialism, and that's when one country takes over another country economically and politically. And we talked about the Anti-Imperialist League during the Spanish-American War. So the United States is going to be going through a period of do we want to be involved in world affairs, or do we not want to be involved in world affairs? But in Europe, we're going to have all of these imperialistic attitudes. Great Britain, Germany, and France especially really wanted to be strong out on the foreign markets. They wanted to sell those goods that were created during the Industrial Revolution in different markets of the world. So they felt like that the best way to do that was to become involved in some of these, you know, countries that would be buying those goods. So African markets were the big ones. So France and Germany are going to butt heads a lot over North Africa. And then we're going to see the Middle East kind of getting involved with all of this too. And this is why this is a world war. Okay, it's not only Europe, but it's Northern Africa, and it's the Middle East, and it's the United States, and all of these countries are going to be combined to make this world war. But the Middle East, Ottoman Empire was starting to crumble. They're starting to have a lot of hard times. So Austria-Hungary says, hey, listen, we really got to like pay attention to this weakness. Obviously, this is a great time for us to become really involved in that area of the world. And then the final A in mania is assassination. And this is more of a spark of the war than it is one of the underlying causes, but it was a huge event in leading to World War I. So we know what assassination is. It's killing of a primary leader, somebody that's a target of a political campaign or something along those lines. In this case, it's Archduke Francis Ferdinand. He was assassinated by the Black Hand, and the Black Hand was a Serbian nationalist group, a terrorist group, essentially. Their main objective was to have a stronger Serbia, but they wanted to do it through violence. Okay, just like any typical group like this, it represented a very small part of the population, but still, it was a Serbian attacking somebody from Austria-Hungary. So how this ends up causing the war, and I've done this flow chart, and it's kind of funky because I had to go over some, but it still gives you some good ideas of what happened. First step, Austria-Hungary blames Serbia for Ferdinand's death and declares war on them. So that's the first declaration of war. Then Germany pledges its support to Austria-Hungary. Then Russia pledges their support to Serbia. And starting back up here, then Germany, as a result of this, is going to declare war on Russia. France pledges its support to Russia. It was against Germany. So then Germany declares war on France. Germany invades Belgium on the way to France, the way to invade France. And then Great Britain ended up supporting Belgium and starts to declare war on Germany. So it seems really confusing, but I want you to take some time when you're looking over your notes that I gave you to make sure that you have each of these little pieces filled out, because it will all start to make sense when we look more and more into World War I. So those were the causes of World War I. Make sure you're familiar with them for our activity in class tomorrow, and I will see y'all then.